no person should be going into government to compete against the private sector. Oh my gosh, because the private sector has no chance at competing against somebody who's in government.
Right.
That's not okay.
Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Overstock Dixie. You can go like and follow their Instagram. There's new items that pop up on there every day, multiple times a day. Anything from furniture to tools, electronics, pretty much anything you're looking for. Hey guys, welcome back to the Derick Leg Podcast. We're episode 108. One of my good friends on here again today. I want everyone to really listen. You're going to learn a lot and hopefully gain some support. So today our guest is Aros Mackey.
Hello. Good to be back with you, Derick, and crew, your audience.
Your first, so this is your second time being on. Your first episode is one of my favorite. So I've have people consistently. I mean, we have 108 episodes. This will be 108.
Yeah, that's cool. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. But I have people often say, what's your top 5, or top 10, or they want to kind of get into the rhythm of how the podcast is performed. And you're always one of them. I mean, we don't have a ton of interactions because you're super busy, but when we do, I'm not good at this, so it's something I have to practice. I have to shut down and be present when I'm talking to you. So, I respect you a ton. You know that.
Yeah. Likewise.
So I wanted to bring you on anyway. A couple months ago, I was thinking about it because I'm starting to think of the people we had, the first 20, 30 episodes. And I'm like, who would be cool to bring back on and just kind of do a checkup with them? And then it was not days later, I see a sign saying that you're running for city council. So that's kind of what we want to tackle in the first of this. Okay. I want you to really tell people who you are. I think, okay. And I think people that know you probably know what you do to counter sex trafficking, and which I think is amazing, and we could talk about for 4 hours. But what I really want to talk about in the beginning of this, and we'll see how long it goes, is who are you? Okay. Why are you a good leader? Why would you be a good candidate? What's your background? And I know a lot of it. I wrote some notes down so I can make sure I hit the stuff I want to hit. But yeah, dude, that's really my purpose today, is I want people to really get to know who you are. Because I think that's why someone should vote for anyone, right?
I agree.
And let me kick this off a little bit, and then I'll have you take over.
Okay.
So one of the things that I've noticed with your campaign, and it's obviously it's I don't know if it's your life. I don't know if that's the right way to put it. But it consumes a lot of your time is protecting children, right? So your signs are kind of geared towards that, which I think is great. And that's your background. That's who you are. But what I really want to get into is, this guy's got a PhD, master's degree, PhD, runs a nonprofit, runs businesses. You have to be very methodical about your everyday actions and all of the positive attributes that you could bring towards city council and the power that city council has. And basically what it's more than just voting in, it should be more than a popularity contest, right? Like we should be voting on what we believe what your heart is. And I believe I know your heart. And so that's why
we go back a ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where I'm like, I really want to get you on, and I want people to know that side of you. So maybe I'll kind of hand it over to you and talk about why city council. I know you're busy. You're all over the place, doing what you do for work, and I'll kind of just let you take it over.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It was a generous introduction. I would feel the same way. I know your heart. I wouldn't be on here with you a second time if I didn't trust you. So I appreciate the confidence. I am a reluctant city council candidate. And on the candidate side also, just in full disclosure, I don't have my PhD yet. I'm a a PhD candidate.
Okay.
So I've done all my coursework. Now I'm just working on my dissertation,
Got you.
which is focused on studying the link between counter-human trafficking and foreign terrorist organizations. And, that's my life. That kind of research. I'm a PhD level researcher, and I dissect things differently than most. But anyway, regardless of that, I am a city council candidate for St. George. I really am doing this reluctantly. Just also in the full disclosure, I don't like bureaucracy. I don't like playing in bureaucracy. I recognize that there's a need for service that has to happen. And yeah, the city council members make a little bit of money, but it's going to cost me money to be a part of this. And it'll kind of be a trade-off. Like I'll be in my meetings and I'll get paid a little bit, but about that same amount is what I'll be paying my employees to go work in my spot during those times. And so it's a trade-off. And, but I feel like our values that have truly made this area so great, so amazing, so wonderful. And it's my wife's family, the MacArthurs and Woodburys, and they saved my life basically. And it's like, there's no way there is any place on this earth that can give me the joy that I've had here and raising my children and that, letting them grow up in their legacy. Because, they're part of the original founders. It's their legacy, so to reconnect them to that has just really been truly amazing. And that legacy of the Dixie pioneers from the Dixie Cotton Mission, it's just the theme. It's like a mascot, they saw those that were picking cotton as hard workers and committed to make it work. And that's why they were doing that. And so those values were one, faith, then it was patriotism, hard work, personal responsibility, and sacrifice. And I saw that. I felt it from my wife's grandfather. He instilled that in me. He's the only grandfather figure I ever had that actually told me he loved me. So I just loved this guy. It's Thomas MacArthur. Most people knew him as Uncle Tom, but for me, it's Grandpa Tom.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he's my hero. I want to be like him. When I'm serving in my church colony with the young men, I'm thinking like what things that he did, just being there, lifting, raising the value of these young men and stuff. And that's who I am. But those values, when we moved down here in 2012, my wife and I were married in the St. George Temple back in 99. And we lived here off and on. We were vacationing here a couple times a year. And we decided in 2011 we were going to just live the Red Rock lifestyle and raise our children. And then, so we created a festival called Dixie Legacy Celebration. The sesquicentennial wagon train was coming in. And I actually needed a project for my bachelor degree. And I got it approved to create a festival, and we called it Dixie Legacy Celebration. And I mean, we had so many meetings, so much time into this, and I focused that celebration around those principles of faith, patriotism, hard work, personal responsibility, and sacrifice. That's what it was. And then we ended up having 10 hours of stage entertainment. The Vernon Wortham Park was surrounded with anything and everything pioneer, and we were literally locking in the values. Okay, so that's important for you to understand when it comes to Dixie. It's not just verbiage I'm using. I own it in my heart, and I've sacrificed making that happen. And I've published a document on everything that we did in there and all the committees and people that were involved in it and stuff like that. And then when the next thing I want people to know about me is I am a constitutional purist. And when I say that, I don't just say it like, oh, I like the Constitution, I'll put a picture up of it. No, I read it and study it, and there's a piece of me that I almost like would say I have testimony of it, if you will.
Sure.
And I believe that George Washington and the other founders were absolutely inspired by God to create it. It's the greatest formula of freedom the world has ever known. And they didn't just find it laying on the ground. They researched all the other nations and what worked, what didn't work. And they knew that that it was in a republic form of government that would have our ultimate freedom. It was a rule of law mixed with the people being able to decide who was going to be their representatives and that would govern the rule of law, and that's what we have. And that's the way it should be. And they warned us too. They said that, I believe it was Benjamin Franklin that said that, that a democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. People misunderstand what that would be. That would be mob rule, right? And so there's a rule of law. We need to have laws in place that work, that uphold our values, and we can do that in our ordinances in the city. And that's where I'll be focusing, is helping realign those values to protect our city and not only that, I believe in the values so strongly that I think we should shore them up and solidify them throughout our community. And then we need to impose them on other communities.
Yeah.
And some people might be like, oh, no, we shouldn't impose anything. Well, if you don't impose what's good, then those who are adversarial to what's good will be imposing their values upon you.
Yeah.
So there's no fence sitting anymore. We have to take a stand, because we will absolutely not win the fight. And I spoke in a TEDx in 2012 about this, and I said, politics is unavoidable. If you play the game their way, you lose. If you don't play at all, you lose. And so we've got to play the game, but we got to play it our way.
Yeah.
And that's taking our values and, for one, making sure our own homes are in order. And we do that here. We shore ourselves up, and then we go out. A lot of people that have caved to the, I'm just going to go along to get along. They're hoping that the 1,000 virtues and 1,000 vices of people, that people will lean toward the 1,000 virtues and everything will just be good. Well, there's too many people with secret combinations and too many leverages and tentacles dug in that are leading in a bad way. And so we just have to put our foot down and take a stand and reestablish our values. And so, yeah, most people think of me as this counter human trafficking guy, but I do counter human trafficking work because I love freedom, and I fought politically to help establish freedoms. And then I started seeing, you know what? I can literally help secure freedom for people individually. And I've been doing that. And now not only has human trafficking been happening in our backyard, but it's starting to come to our front door. And the secret to it, to solving that, is in our values. And we need to shore up the true values that have made us great here. And I feel the need to lead in this area, and I will. And that's why I'm coming out of the field a little bit. You mentioned my last name, which is weird for me. It's weird to let myself be seen publicly like I'm doing. I'm vulnerable. And you know what? So what? I'm gonna let myself be vulnerable, I'm getting some trolls on social media and stuff like that. And I welcome them because they're either the predators out there or else they're just truly ignorant to what's happening. And I will sit down with them and talk to them. Because if they're a predator, I want to know who they are.
Yeah.
If they're just ignorant, I want to talk to them. And it is possible, in full disclosure also, being an intel analyst, I understand my representative heuristics, the things that make me understand what I understand and know are based on experiences and what somebody taught me or what I read, what I had access to. So I do know there's some possibilities that I could be wrong on some things. And so I will listen and hear people out. And especially if they have some kind of cogent argument to why they see things the way they do, I want to hear them out and see. But if their values, once I hear it out, don't align and it's not there, then I won't just agree to disagree. I'm gonna do even more to shore up the values that we need to, that are truly protecting people. Because I can tell you right now, the values of faith, patriotism, hard work, personal responsibility, and sacrifice, they're not going to harm anybody.
Right.
It's a good thing. Take them out into the world. That people should be preaching those things and pushing them, and we'll see less we'll see less human trafficking. We'll see less drug trafficking. We'll see less predators. We'll see more people standing up to be protectors over being predators. Because people have a choice. You have a choice. I have a choice. We all, even the women out there, even children, have moments where they have to make decisions on being a protector or a predator. And those values are what help shore yourself up and your soul, and just so you can do better things. So I appreciate you letting me go into a little more depth about who I am inside, and I'll burn at the stake before I deny these values.
Well, I know that, man. That's why, that's, like I said before we got on, the thing that I really love when I talk to you is it's face value. There's you don't have to read into anything that you say. What you say is what you mean. And I think that you take the time and you articulate what you want to say. And that's what, for me, it's like, okay, because I want to like jump in and like cut you off and like say things. So it's hard for me just to sit here and like let you go. But I know that you're doing it in a way that where you communicate it is accurate. It's accurate to, like you were saying, you could be wrong. I love that you're open to that. Mm-hmm. But it's still as accurate as you can possibly form it, if that's a way to say it. Yeah. Couple things when you were going through that. Okay. Like I said, I didn't want to cut you off, but
okay. I'll try to do my monologuing shorter.
No. It was great. It was great. That's why I have a notepad so I can write things down and I can come back to it. Cause, the last few episodes I've talked about this because I think some people are kind of confused of what the podcast is. Like everyone asks me, well, what do you talk about? And I'm like, well, we just bring people on, And so the way we kind of say it now is like, it's really your episode. Like it's your soapbox. I'm here to kind of guide us through it. And, for some people, maybe it's move it along. Some people, it's also, let's double down on that thought, and really try to understand that. So that's really, I'm just here trying to guide your story. Right.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that.
And so when you're monologuing, dude, get your point across. Cause I know that everything that you say, and other people aren't this way, but everything that you say, you're saying it for a reason. So a couple things where you're talking about impose, like we will impose it on you. Just devil's advocate a little bit. I could imagine people would come in and say, well, dude, it's time to adjust. It's time to grow. It's time to, think outside the box. It's time to, whatever that objective is. And I love that how strong you are about saying, no, this is the values that we have. This is why most of the people come here. Just to be honest, right?
It's so true. Yeah.
I've lived here since I was 7. Let's see, we moved here when I was 6 or 7 into St. George area.
Yeah.
And so like it's home for me, right?
Yeah.
It's ever since I've known my address, it was in Washington City and now we're in St. George City. And I see a lot of people coming in. I know why they're coming in, and it's the reasons that you just said. And so if people want to come in and try to change those characteristics of St. George or Utah or Southern Utah, or it's like I love what you said. We need to protect those values, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I'm really voicing this very well, but you kind of got me worked up because I'm trying to be a little normal sounding on the mic instead of rattling off everything I want to say.
Well,
right now.
and playing my own devil's advocate as well to what I said. You know what? If there's people out there that are coming to this area, if you have values that you know made your community great that aren't a part of those 5, come in and tell your story. Maybe we'll adopt it. Maybe there is something that could be good. But don't you dare come here thinking you're going to crack our values.
Right. If you want to come, add to it.
Yeah,
let's add positive.
Just add to it. You know, we really don't want to crack your values, but we do want to share with you what values are absolutely working for us. It's been over 150 years.
Yeah.
It's like 160 years or something now.
People are coming here for these reasons. So if we could adopt other areas to these reasons, like you're saying, push it on to other areas, right?
Yeah. And there are absolutely values that we do need to recognize that other communities have gotten, because there are communities that we've never been this big before.
Yeah.
There are communities that have been this size, and they have figured out how to navigate the growth and how to make things right. And really, the founders, when they were sent down here by Brigham Young told them, make that place flourish. We're going to fill the valleys with good people. They're not saying we're going to keep St. George small.
Right.
We're going to fill the valleys with good people. And their real purpose was to help bring people to Christ, just do good things.
Yeah.
Have good people come here, as well as preserving the Constitution. And I kind of said a little bit about that before, but man, there's some deep information about that too. Like, a lot of people don't realize Brigham Young's father was an indentured servant at 16 years old. And he ran away from his slave master and joined General Washington in the Continental Army and enlisted 3 different times. He knew, not only was he a freedom fighter, he knew what it was like to be a slave. And he taught Brigham Young all about George Washington. And Brigham Young had George Washington on his mind all the time, and he was his ultimate hero. I hear it was aside from Joseph Smith, but George Washington was Brigham Young's hero. And so when he named Washington County after George Washington, it wasn't just like any other state that does that. It was real to him.
Right.
And then George Washington and the founders coming to the St. George Temple and the ordinances, whether you believe in the LES Church and their faith and things, it doesn't matter. But there's that story that they came here in spirit to this location. They could have waited for the Washington D.C. Temple or something, if that area is so important. They came here.
Right.
Washington County. And now maybe our values are needed for what's coming in the future. That we're seeing communities collapse to this new form of governmental power that's demanding reliance and less freedom, and it's almost like starting to mimic Rome and some of these societies that have collapsed in the past. We're moving in that direction at a rapid pace, and it's almost like we're hijacked and moving in that direction. But we can preserve those values right here, and maybe America truly does have hope, because of all the patriots that are here, the people that have those values and are willing to stand up for them.
I hope so.
I hope so, and I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, and we just need people to lead. I'm willing to lead right now, but if you're listening to this and you're feeling that, maybe you need to lead too. Maybe in the next term, whoever's listening, maybe we have that next person that's going to be on a city council too, listening right now. You know, maybe you should lead. You know, those of you that have been sitting back and just kind of enjoying, just living in your joy. I think it's time to send out that call to rise up and let's lead and let's secure our values in our community.
Well, I'll take it a step further in that the people that are sitting there letting other people talk for them. And I see, like we've had another candidate on here before, and then it's like, well, Aros is doing it. I don't need to, right? Like Aros is standing up for that. I don't need to, or name it, right? I mean, there's a handful of people out there in the nation, right, that are trying to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to do it at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was another thing I was going to talk about with you is just the bureaucracy and how you're against it. Mm-hmm. And that's part of your calling, I think, to run for city council is to counter that. And you kind of touched on it a second ago, but I want you to go a little deeper on it.
Okay.
So just your thoughts about that and what you feel like you can do and the power that you or anyone that has your values on city council can do. Yeah.
All right. So we just passed a $500 million budget for the city of St. George. $500 million.
With a B.
Yeah, with a B. You know, there are going to be people that'll be like, yeah, but, you know, the city council, they did ask the questions. They did have each department explain the accountability of it. And, but I just wonder, you know, I'm not convinced in the way the city council explained their accountability of what they did. I mean, I like our city. I like our city employees. I have no desire to change somebody's quality of life like that. But there is a certain role in our government that needs to be maintained, and you know, government never does things better than the private sector.
Right.
They just don't. And a lot of it is the different type of, I don't know. There's too much of a golden parachute when it comes to government accomplishing things or a safety net. The risk is just different than those of us who are business owners. And I'm a business owner and have employees, and, you know, and I have to make payroll every 2 weeks, and it's hard. And I tell you, government is my largest, my most inefficient, and most dangerous employee.
Right. Oh, I feel you.
Oh my gosh, I pay so much in taxes, and it's like, you know, I pay my employees, and then you take out the amount that has to go to the government, and then you match that, and then you have your quarterly taxes. I'm not saying there shouldn't be taxes, but it's out of control.
Yeah,
it's absolutely out of control, and I'm not opposed to government getting tax money. I'm opposed to the black hole that it is with our money. You can go find another 100,000 millionaires out there and have them start paying half of what they make or what they have to the taxes. Won't change a thing. Will not change a thing, but will go into the pockets of those bureaucrats that are out there controlling the narrative, and you know, it's not going to come back to this. And I think any kind of surplus, a government needs to be a lean operation. There's certain things that there needs to be surplus, especially when it comes to water, electricity. We need to know how to make sure that if things go dry, we're not going to starve or overheat or die, right? But if it's other things and there's a surplus, it needs to go back to the people. Cut a check back to people. Don't just hold on to it.
Yeah.
The government needs to be a lean operation
or spend it so you don't lose it.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Yeah, they're like, oh, let's just no.
Yeah, if we don't spend all this, then our budget gets cut, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how a lot of it goes.
And I'm a business owner, and like I indicated, there's things I'm good at, things I'm not good at, and I know there's a lot of resources and people, but I will absolutely be focused on that lean side of it. I feel the pain that people are having in their businesses out there. I'm really uncomfortable with the ever watchful eye, even with our own local government. I mean, there's not as much virtue as there's supposed to be in our government. In fact, I'm not sure there is any virtue. and so I don't trust them with everything. I just don't. And so when it comes to bureaucracy, coming back to the city budget of $500 million, the way I see it is the more powerful or the more money a government agency has, the more powerful they are, and the more money that there is, then it's almost like a campaign fund. The more money they have, the more money they can collect. It's just kind of like that, and now, and there might be people out there that are going to take that Aros is anti-government or whatever, say what they will. I mean, I have my people out there that are going to be coming after me. I really don't care. I've confronted traffickers for a living.
Right.
These guys are otherwise good people. They're just trying to get their own spin on things. They're not going to make my heart hurt.
Yeah, I'll typer Tom out there just writing something about you.
Yeah, but here's the reality. I love good government. I'm a good government advocate. I really, really appreciate those people who uphold the Constitution, those people who are looking at government and understand how they should be operating. People like Davy Crockett. Davy Crockett was an awesome congressman. And when he was in Congress, there was another, I can't remember the story exactly, but there was somebody, one of their peers, that their house burned down or something. Maybe it was the widow of one of the congressmen or something like that. And they were all deliberating, should we build them a new house? And Davy Crockett took a stand and was like, no, that's not what our government money is for. The charities and pleasures and things like that in the community needs to come from the people itself. Let the community put it together. Let them organize their nonprofits. Let them do things to make their community even better in their particular areas and stuff. And there's just way too much where people are like, oh, let's just have the government do it. And that's where I was talking about that government is demanding reliance more and more on people, and they're doing that with a carrot. Like, look at this. Look at what we can do this for you.
So much more convenient. This is safe. This is whatever.
Yeah, they are. And it's only going to cost you this much if you do it. And and so, but then you have the feds that come in and they're like, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to bring in this money, and it's going to make your community so amazing. And there's politicians that will absolutely gain. Maybe it'll benefit their business. Maybe it'll benefit. And let me mention right now, I have nothing to gain from a city council. In fact, it's possible I might have to let one of my businesses go because of being on city council. I'm not getting anything. I don't have a product to sell. I just don't.
Gaining popularity does nothing for you. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Like,
no, it's making it harder for
me. It makes it harder for you. It's making it, and I'm not even saying it's a terrible thing that some people are going to benefit off of it. I mean, I would rather them not, but the fact is you are definitely not.
Yeah.
And other people will inevitably.
You know,
from
one
popularity.
of my best friends, his father, I'm not going to say their names on this, but his father was like a high level planner in the city about, 25, 30 years ago or something. And his father would come home and be like, hey, I know of a project that's coming in. And if you were to go buy this land right now, you and your buddy, you guys would be millionaires within the next 10 years. And they're like, oh, where is it, Dad? He goes, I'm not telling you. I'm not telling anybody.
Right.
That's the kind of guy I wish would have been on city council.
Right. Right.
They don't do that.
But
they're like, oh, yeah. And then all of a sudden you see their businesses getting contracts that would.
I mean, it goes all the way up the flagpole. Like, I mean, we can get sidetracked here for a minute, but it's like, think of all the stocks that all the Congress controls, right? And it's like, maybe it's at a smaller scale locally, right? Yeah. But all that happens, and it's at the post office. I joke all the time when they have, like, you got to buy their uniforms, right?
Yeah.
And now their uniforms are like $70 for a shirt and $90 for a pair of pants.
Yeah, right.
But you have to buy there. And so my joke's always like, well, whose cousin got the contract to make these clothes, right? Like, what high up person, or the mailboxes. You have to buy the mailboxes that are approved by the post office. And it's like, well, who's making those mailboxes? You know, what company got that contract?
And at the same time, that private company that's making the mailboxes, they have the right to do that.
Yeah,
if government is making decisions that are dumb, and it's natural or organic for you to move into that, that's capitalism. You know, right. I'm a capitalist. At heart, I understand that, but no person should be going into government to compete against the private sector. Oh my gosh, because the private sector has no chance at competing against somebody who's in government.
Right.
That's not okay.
Right.
They shouldn't absolutely not do that. And it's happened. It's happened to me. I've had that happen. It's actually currently happening right now to me with something I'm not going to go into right now, but I can't compete with the government on one of my businesses. And they're completely more powerful than me, and in that area. But what I was saying about the feds, like, they'll be like, hey, we'll give you this money, it's going to improve your community, it's going to do this amazing stuff for you, and then the community takes that money and then implements it, and it creates a new bureaucracy in order to regulate that or to make that work. And they're like, look how awesome this is, brings on employees and stuff like that. And then that Fed money stops. Now it's almost impossible to get rid of that new bureaucracy. And so you have to find money. And so now they're looking at, we got to raise taxes because we got to keep these employees going right here. And it's not that the people asked for it. The feds said, here, do this. Here's this money, take this. And then they have to keep writing grants. And then those grants are going to get more and more strategic in tightening the noose on that little community. You want the money this year? Well, you're going to have to agree to this, whether it's protecting fish so they don't get sunburned.
Yeah.
I can say it. I know that it's happening out there, and I know our water conservancy district are dealing with these kind of things, and like literally we're spending money because the feds are concerned about those kind of things, like fish getting sunburned. It's like, we gotta let the water go in the dam and get it all mixed up and muddy so that the fish can have shade through the mud and not just go under trees or something or find a water.
This is a real thing.
It's absolutely a real thing. that was going on this year even.
Oh my gosh.
That's the bureaucracy I'm talking about.
Right.
It's like, no, we can't just get along to go along to get along anymore. We have, it might be painful, but I'm going to be an advocate of helping us find a way to cut the bureaucracy down. And that's what people keep saying. People are like, well, what are you going to do when you're in city council? Well, there's some things, and it's going to be ordinances. I'm going to help realign our ordinances to protect our values, because you can. That's what a city council is supposed to be creative. That's the creative board to come up with, how do we do this? And then we'll establish our ordinances to protect our values. And then, to answer the question, what am I going to do? It's what I'm going to not let the government do.
Right. You're going to protect us. Right.
Yeah, that's it. And if they don't want to elect me for that, then I don't want to be there.
Good point.
And on that note, we live in an area that I believe majority of the people have my school of thought.
I agree.
And they want me to represent. I mean, just like I would absolutely want somebody that has my school of thought like that to represent me in my city council. I would absolutely vote for somebody like myself because I know the values,
Right.
And so somebody who doesn't hold those values, well, that's too bad. And I'll hear you out. Like I said, I want to hear, because maybe there's something I don't know, but I'm here to represent what the majority of the people want. And if I get elected in, it's because that's what they wanted. And I'll represent that. If it was opposite, I wouldn't want to represent them. If the majority of the people don't want that, then I don't want to be that person representing.
Right. Well, I think in knowing you and the history that you and I have had, I've always wanted you to kind of be more of a personality that people can see. Mm-hmm. And like we've raised a little bit of money, tried to help you raise money in different things
You have literally saved some lives.
Well, thank you.
Based on what you did.
I
don't say that lightly, because I am a person that has accountability and literally has saved lives because of my work. Saved families. And you helped make that possible. And that's part of my pain of running for city council. It's like, man, I've been securing freedom for people immediately, and I'm still going to. I'm never going to stop that.
Well, this is what I wanted to get into, so you're segueing it right to what I wanted to do. Okay. So, good.
And now I'm going to have to fight like crazy to gain an inch of freedom in a mile.
Right.
in city council, and whatever. That's what feels most right now. This is the new mission. And here we go. Let's see if the people want me to do it. If they will, then I will absolutely work my guts out to do what I'm saying right now.
One thing you kind of mentioned, and I want to dive in a little more on it, is using your last name. Like, to some people that people probably don't understand that. And I think people that know you do, but the majority of people don't understand that. Just talk about that a little more. Okay. I know we touched it on the last episode, but you typically don't use your last name because you're trying to be like in the shadows, covert, not out in front of anything, right?
Yeah. So,
and then talk about why you're that.
Okay. As a counter-human trafficking operator, I am not like the operators that people might imagine. I'm not into the sting operations where I'm going to be looking a trafficker in the face and asking them if they have little girls and things like that. I can't do that. When I went through a lie detector test, lie detector tests are kind of cool. Have you ever done one?
I have not.
So You sit on a pressure plate that registers movement. You have a strap around your chest, which is measuring your breathing. You have a blood pressure cuff measuring your heart rate, and you have a sweat gland sensor to know. And they immediately they give you like control words and stuff, and they're like, if I ask the question in your life, if I say that first, then you need to lie about the answer. Like, in your life, have you ever visited St. George? And I'd be like, no. And they're like, okay, you're a good candidate for the lie detector test. And they're like, see, look at this. And it's like everything spiked. The lie just doesn't work. And I'm self-aware at that. And so as a private investigator, I knew how to get really good at surveillance, and you've seen some of my techniques and spycraft, that tradecraft and stuff that I've learned and developed in order to get close and to solve the cases. Right? I mean, I'm a PhD level researcher. I study everything I possibly can and practice it and learn it and master it. And I won't put anything or try anything in the field until after I've mastered it, right? So,
well, that's one thing I want to touch on. So let me just cut in right here.
Okay.
So going through school like you have, and you I think you did touch it a little bit, but a lot of the papers you've had to write, the projects you've had to do, it's all been real life things.
Yeah.
It's all been at every level. Can you talk about?
Yeah, I can do it in this. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So I'll say it in this kind of a direction.
Okay.
So I have friends who are in upper echelons of government.
There you go.
And I'll also say that I've had professors that were old spy masters, and my master's degree was in intelligence. I was one of the few civilians in that intel program. And I was having the time of my life in there. I don't have secret clearances, and so I can say what I want. I'm beholden to nobody,
right?
And so I was kind of an anomaly being able to be accepted into that program, and so when I would be in a class like operations intelligence or signals intelligence, human intelligence, which is known as HUMINT, I would reach out to my friends who were in the upper echelons of government and in different areas, and I'd ask them, I'd let them know, hey, I'm in this particular class. What's something that you want or need more information on that maybe your staff or your team or anybody that they're not already working on?
Yeah.
And they'd give me topics. And so I would be dialed in all over the world. And in fact, a lot of my research was focused in the Southeast Asia area. And I studied a lot of foreign terrorist organizations and then also found I was going to go that route in the counter-human trafficking world the counter-terrorism world, but I kept being led back to human trafficking. I would discover foreign terrorist organizations are using human trafficking to fund their illicit international operations and actually be using it to plan to kill us. And even if they were just using the slaves as currency for a reward for their generals and things like that, they were doing that. And it was human trafficking. It just kept coming back to it. And I realized our counterterrorism operators are amazing throughout the world and locally as well. Every police department has counterterrorism specialists, and then we have our fusion centers throughout the U.S. Last I knew, there was like 80 something. It's been a few years. There's probably a few more by now, but these guys have clearances that they share intel in these fusion centers and stuff. And even in Las Vegas, our counterterrorism guys down there, they're kicking in doors, possibly on a monthly basis now, stopping terrorist attacks. They're good. There's not a lot of terrorists, but there's a lot of counterterrorism practitioners. Human trafficking is opposite. There are so many traffickers. There's so many people being exploited. And the amount of people countering it are really low. It's opposite. So I had decided I would dedicate my life to that. And I was kind of, my world was flipped upside down a little bit because I was going to be in DC doing this work. And so I knew I needed to change up my research. I was going to do my PhD work in intelligence. And then I realized I couldn't go back to Utah or just live in Utah and really implement an intelligence master's degree or a PhD. And so I decided to switch to criminal justice. And there was actually a school that wanted somebody with an Intel master's degree in their PhD criminal justice program. And so I'd gotten a scholarship to go and enter that program, that curriculum. And I loved it. And then so I really focused on understanding the criminal procedure process and understanding the life of law enforcement and prosecutors and public defenders and everything like that. And in my nonprofit work, I mean, you got these guys out there, these groups that are really getting a lot of attention in the counter-human trafficking world, and they're promoting arrests and taking down traffickers and stuff like that. But what you don't know is most of the arrests are not convicted. They don't get convicted. Most of them don't. But people are thinking these traffickers are getting put away. It's just not the case. There are some of them, and it's not that they're not doing the best job they can. It's just, it's really hard. And so I don't ever promote the arrests because I've had a lot of arrests too. I've had a lot of traffickers arrested, but
so they're not getting convicted because there's not enough evidence, because the victims go back to them, the victims don't testify. What is that? Is it all of it?
Yeah, definitely all of the above. But the real reason is human traffickers have been doing trafficking from the beginning of the world, basically.
Sure.
People have been getting exploited and they document, and they have books. They teach each other how to do that work. And when it comes to the U.S. Constitution, we're vulnerable because it's in the open. Our Constitution is a response type of a thing, not a preventative. It's preventative at governing at stopping our government from attacking us. But these traffickers know how to. They've studied how to avoid their personal privacy rights being violated in their illicit operations, and they do this with knowing how a crime works. In order for something to be a crime, there has to be the mental side of it and the actus reus, mens reus, and they have to. It's not a crime if somebody accidentally commits the crime. If it's speeding and stuff like that, you'll actually get a ticket because it actually happened. But if it's a crime against persons or things like that, if you didn't mean to do it, it's not necessarily a crime. And so if you killed somebody, they wouldn't look at it as murder. If it was accidental, it'd be more of manslaughter. Your negligence somehow caused it, and you mentally chose to be negligent. But if it's murder, you had the mental side of it, and then you committed the act, and vice versa. If you had mentally did it, you didn't commit the crime. If you mentally did it and created this first degree murder in your mind, but you didn't do it,
right,
then it's no crime.
Right.
And then the third part of that is the crime has to have an actual victim.
Sure.
There has to be a victim to the crime. And the traffickers know that. And so they purposely make it so their victims are terrible witnesses. If their victim is not addicted to drugs, they'll hold them down and shoot them up. And then that drug will get them to where they're so addicted and And then the traffickers will use personal value, self-worth, and beat it down. They need their victims to not have any self-worth. And then it becomes an invisible leash. And so the girls, well, most of the girls that I've helped, they're like, I want that, they swear.
Sure.
I want that a-hole in prison. He's got to pay for what he did to me. And then after a few days, that invisible leash starts getting more present and tighter. And then they start questioning what they want. And they start getting fear of the future, of the unknown. They know that they will get beat, but they know what happens after, and they know how to survive that. There's this fear of the unknown. And so they will go back. And now the law enforcement, the prosecution lost their witness. So now there's no more crime. Unless you have a special witness, somebody like myself that witnessed it and has the evidence that can present it in court, which is hard. It's really hard to do, because then now they're going to go after, were you violating their personal privacy rights to get that information that you got? So these organizations, they go out there and they focus on prosecution. Oh, we're going to go arrest traffickers. We're making these arrests. But they're not telling people, like, those people are actually getting back out. They're bailing out and nothing's happening. So with my organization, I made sure I had a public defender on my board. What's going to happen with this case?
Yeah.
If we make this arrest, what's the public defender? What's their angle going to be in getting this trafficker off? It's like, my mind is just different. It's like, why would you just hire prosecutors and stuff and put them on your board? It's like, why not understand how they're gonna fight you?
Yeah, it's blind angle if you don't have it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a little more insight that most people don't get on what happens in my organization, how I do what I do.
I derailed us a little bit, so
okay.
Let me bring us back to why you protect your last name. That's kind of what we were going on, and then I derailed us.
Well, I think that people can kind of understand that, and as I was explaining that I'm not a very good liar, and so I use disguises. I have a tactical homeless outfit, and I have things that can get me close. And then when I have PID, personal identification of the trafficker, the person I'm looking for, that is most likely has the person I'm looking for, then the victim that I'm helping the family get reunited, then the disguise comes off. And it's Aros that they're talking to. And they realize this has been the case for years and years. I've been in the field over 10 years. This has been the case where the trafficker, first of all, they're cowards. These level of traffickers are cowards. They're in it for their business. They go along to get along. They don't want to harm their personal agendas. And they can't have somebody like me that is shaking things up. And when they realize that I'm not after them, I'm looking for the girl, for the family. And they're like, okay, so if you get her, you're reunited with the family. They realize they've got the wrong girl.
Yeah.
And this is part of the heartbreaking part of this work, is there are girls out there that nobody's going to come looking for. I help them the best I can, but I find that I get the most mileage out of what I do, or most effectiveness, if there's a family that's actually looking. And unfortunately, there's so many victims of human trafficking out there that I can actually pick and choose. And I'll go find a family that's desperately looking for their loved one that's being or likely being trafficked, and I'll go and help them. And so people ask me, well, how do people get a hold of you if they need help and stuff? I don't want people to get a hold of me. I can't have them do that. And a decade ago, I had a call helpline. I was like, okay, I was experimenting a lot. It's like, okay, let's try this. And I immediately had traffickers running my phone number, my call helpline with call girl ads to discredit me. So if anybody Googled my number, it'd come up with a call girl ad. And then I started realizing they're trying to set me up. They'll have a victim call in. I need help. I need you to pick me up at this particular address. And if you show up there, then you're going to get jumped, because they do that. They call them tricks. Like, they'll have a girl that's having a customer come to them, and then the traffickers come out and rob the guy.
Jeez.
And sometimes shoot him, kill him. I've actually been, I used to do bail enforcement, and I've arrested girls who did that. One particular girl that we helped track down, she was involved in 2 murders of doing that. And, she was a violent person herself, but she had been trafficked and exploited her whole life. And so it was in her mindset. She was hard. She's like, this is my life. This is what I'm going to do, and then she's answering to these guys, and she's just sold into this, like, being almost, that would be more of a Stockholm syndrome type thing, where
right?
They buy into the mission of the thing. And, human trafficking is not glamorous. It is not glorious. People are seeing this Sound of Freedom movie, and they're like getting this rescue mentality, and they're like, we're going to do this. We're going to unionize, and we're going to go save these kids. And there's nothing glorious about it. If you think you're going to kick in a door and rescue a child and eliminate their oppressor, these children and the people being exploited, going back to that invisible leash, they can love their oppressor like a child can love an abusive father. And you turn your back, and that victim may just attack you in order to protect their oppressor, because they don't understand. And then it's a long road, and then I'll get home from a mission. I won't even want to talk about it. There's been missions that I get home and I forget to even tell my wife about some of the things that happened. So there's no glory in it, even though it's being glorified right now. You'll be sad. You'll be sorely disappointed if you think you're going to come into this industry and have some kind of uplifting experience. In the end, after the smoke settles, and it's I'll get messages after years. Sometimes it's a little sooner, but it's usually a long time after. And these girls and boys sometimes will send me messages, and I'll almost have forgotten about the case. And they'll be like, thank you for what you did, and that's when the joy is starting to come. It's like, whoa, oh man, now I feel it. I felt so awful. And I felt like the traffickers may have an angle at having me arrested or doing something. It's never a clean thing. The hard reality is this industry just shouldn't exist.
Right.
And so there's no real good way to do it that I've found.
Does it ever go away completely? What's the answer? Is there an answer? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you get what I'm asking you? Like,
yeah, I've got the answer.
Okay.
Tag, you're it. I'm going to city council. I've told you a lot. So now you have to go do it. I'll guide you. I even have some mission cars. I'll tell you what to do.
Well, the reason I ask is because I don't know that it ever goes away. Like, I think at some level it will always, like you said, it's always existed. Mm-hmm. So is there ever wiping it off the planet?
No.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm kind of getting at. No. Another thing I want to say, just so listeners understand, when Aros is talking about this is his life. This is stuff he's seen. This is places he's been. I commend you on even keeping your emotions in check. And I can kind of see sometimes that you're really keeping it in check. So, I want people to understand, this is real, and this is real to Aros, and it's real to families. There's countless and countless families. So without trying to get you too emotional, I'll let you kind of get back in, but couple things. I just want to finish up the last name thing. So I know that the last name, it's very important to you to kind of keep secret while you're going through the last decade. And so first thing that we said when I introduced him and said his last name, it's still weird for him because it's always been a secret. And he's doing that to protect not just him. I mean, if you're on video, you can see Aros and you can he can take care of himself probably, right? He's got a family too. I mean, he's got a wife, he's got kids. And that's really where the secrecy comes from. And with that said, I probably wouldn't want to mess with them either, but kind of wrap that up for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Put a bow on that.
I will. And I apologize because it's even hard for me to explain it now, but I realized once I was running my first and last name would be on the ballot.
Yeah.
And I've always operated with my first and middle name, which are really unique and kind of fun for that. People think it's fake, but my real name is Aros Mackey, and it has to be in order for me to be on the ballot now. So I did not make that choice very lightly. Okay. This is my next mission. Whether I make it on city council or not, I have to be vulnerable to the name that way. I've had traffickers make pretty serious and aggressive threats where I've had law enforcement locally come to my house and make the reports and then I sent my own guys back to that trafficker and did my own surveillance. So I knew where he was, so I wasn't going to get a surprise. I would know if he's moving on, at me. Yeah. And then I'm going to intervene and I'm going to confront him first before he's able to confront me, that kind of a thing. And so it's really awkward, but that's what it was. And so, so I had to change all my social media because my name on the ballot will be Aros Mackey.
Right.
And in order you have to have name recognition, and so people on social media, they'd be like, wait, who's this Aros Mackey? I thought it was Aros.
Right. And it's like, luckily your name's Aros and not just like Matt or something. Yeah, right. Like, I mean, you kind of have like the Kobe brand going, right? Like people I don't know anyone else named Aros. So anytime someone talks about Aros, I know it's you, right? So at least you have that recognition with you.
Let me say this, because I do know that there are traffickers listening. There are also victims of human trafficking that are listening. Some of them may not realize that they're victims of trafficking. I'm a man of faith. And so whether it offends people or not, I hope it doesn't, but in a way, I don't really care if you're offended at this, but human trafficking is broken sons and daughters of God breaking other sons and daughters of God. I am not out there to declare war on traffickers. I never have been. In fact, many traffickers, there's been some traffickers that have seen the evil in their ways and turned from what they were doing and have consulted with me. And they guide me and tell me what to do to be more effective. So I kind of take the strategy of mighty Michael in the war in heavens in Revelations before we came here. There was a war in heaven, and it was a fight between the children of God and Lucifer, and it was Michael was leading that war against Lucifer, and Lucifer he took the nuclear option, turned himself into this mighty dragon. And whatever that really represented, I have no idea. I'm really fascinated to know. But either way, it was like the nuclear option. And Michael could have matched that. Michael had the same power, same authority. He could have done the same thing and just said, it's on, let's go. But no, he stayed in his true form. And he said, the Lord rebuke you. he knew whose war it was, that it wasn't his. He wasn't declaring war on the adversary. I'm doing the same thing. I'm not declaring war on traffickers. I am just doing what I feel like I'm supposed to do. It's a calling. I feel like the Lord needs me, wants me to go do things. And I see miracles, incredible miracles. Maybe that can be another episode, another time where we just talk about the miracles, because there have been dozens and dozens of them that are extreme miracles. And it's like, okay, my intelligence can get me close, but I have to have that miracle at the end in order to have that family be reunited. And so, that's one reason why I'm okay with, coming out in the open about who I am and what I've been doing, because there's probably some traffickers out there that I could make a call. And if I knew a certain trafficker was after me, I could probably make a call to some of these other traffickers that are no longer traffickers, and they will probably go and tell that person to calm down.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that would resonate. I don't know. That's just the truth about what's happened out there.
The reason I bring it up is because, if you're still listening after an hour of listening to Aros, if you don't have respect, that alone, I think, should build respect in your corner. It's been a decade of protecting, right? Mm-hmm. Home, protecting loved ones. And now, because you feel, the new mission, the new calling, and to instill the values that Southern Utah has, and not to just instill them, but like you say, build them up. I think that's as respect worthy as anything. I
appreciate that.
I want to spend just a little bit of time. Okay. We're just over an hour. I knew we would be over an hour. Yeah. I told you that before. I want to be like hour and a half. If we hit 2 hours, we hit 2 hours. And people that are listening, you can break this up and listen to it, 2 or 3 different sections. But, couple things I do want to talk about for sure. First thing you really brought up when we sat down and kind of just got the feel of what we were going to accomplish today. You brought up a couple things that I thought was really cool. And so I really want to talk about Miss Rodriguez and the story behind her. And then at the end, I kind of want to tie it to what I think it's you, just in a different story. So I'll tie that together when we're done, but I'll let you take that story and kind of tell us what happened. Oh yeah. One of my heroes, Miriam Rodriguez. So many people are like, hey, have you seen Sound of Freedom? What do you think? And, in a nutshell, it's Taken 2.0, only it's not focused on, young women who are exploited. It's focused on children who are exploited. Yes, it's absolutely happening out there. It's based on a true story. Tim Ballard has been out there doing this work, and shout out to Tim and the success of this movie. He himself has even said that he didn't kill anybody, and OUR sent out a thing saying no, he didn't do solo missions and things like that. It is a movie. It's a dramatized movie. So the movie is not a true story. It's based on a true story, but that does not mean the movie's not true, because there are parents that have done that. Derick, I've potentially saved more fathers' lives than the girls and boys that I've gotten out of there. Oh my goodness. There was one father that, this was in Utah, by the way. He calls me, we'd gotten a lead from a medical provider saying, we were at this house, picked up this girl. It was a brothel, and we saw somebody that looked like her. And the dad came unglued, and he calls me. I'm about 45 minutes to an hour ahead of him, closer to Las Vegas than he is. And he is like on the way, right? He's coming in hot, and he's like, Earls, I'm going to go kill that murderer. He's like talking, and I'm telling him, look it, I
cannot help you if you talk like that. I can't be involved in it. If you do something like that, I can't help you. And he just continued on. And then I had to hang up on him. And I went, and I was just distraught. I was like, oh, what am I supposed to do? And I knelt down and I said a prayer. I felt like the Lord was saying, rescue my son, him. So I was like, wait, I'm 45 minutes ahead of him.
Yeah.
He's on the freeway racing down there. I can get on the freeway and I can get there first. And I did. I got there. I got inside the place and cleared it and discovered it wasn't his daughter. It was somebody that resembled that person. And we made sure that law enforcement people were aware, but it wasn't his daughter. He was going to go in guns blazing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so the movie is real in essence of there are moms and dads that have done this. And I told you a little bit about Miriam Rodriguez. She is an amazing mother. I think she was in her early 50s.
Wow.
And her daughter got kidnapped by a cartel. And then they actually killed her too. So she went through and learned how to be clandestine. She studied and gained these skill sets, and she was going in covertly, pretending to be salesperson, pizza delivery, and anything she could to get close. And she was tracking down every person that was involved in that because the government wouldn't. And so the government were taking the case seriously. Like, this is a real case. This really happened. We know that the Zeta cartel is the ones that did this, but they wouldn't actually do anything. So she was doing it. And then there was one of the guys, she would find these guys and then like pin them down, and then the police would actually come and make arrests. And one of the guys, she found out he was selling flowers on the street, and he knew what was happening. They all knew. The whole cartel knew this lady is tracking down these guys.
Yeah, she's coming.
She's coming. And she has a disguise on, and she makes eye contact with the flower selling guy, and he takes off running. She chases him. She's on this foot chase. She catches him, tackles him, and holds him on these train tracks with a gun in his back for an hour until police came and arrested him. The cartel eventually came to her house and shot her and killed her at her house. That's what the movie should have been about, are these moms. It should have been based on a true story, a true story, not based on a true story, but it should have been a true story. Sure. The true story of people like Marian Rodriguez. That's the kind of stuff that it's like, oh my goodness, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean,
your child.
We kind of touched that, man.
What would I do? I would hope that enough now. You would go do it for me, because I wouldn't be in my right mind if something like that happened to my own child. I would need.
Yeah, what would I do? I'd probably have guns out in the truck, and then hopefully I'd have the sense to call you.
Yeah,
before I
got be like, where are you at? No, where are you exactly? So I can get a head start. And it would need to be the same.
Yeah, I shouldn't laugh. Maybe we shouldn't laugh, but it's a very serious thing. But yeah. I mean, I've got a 2-year-old son, and I could only imagine the lengths I would go, and I don't say that lightly. I don't know, man. I
don't want people to be scared. Okay, let me just cover that real quickly. Sure. You don't need to be scared about human trafficking unless, what you need to do is understand the traps. They lay traps in promiscuity. They want the kids to walk themselves into a trap. And so they will literally be hunting for. I've had a trafficker tell me, we want girls with daddy issues. It's the first thing they're going to tell them when they see them. If the girl ran away, they're on the watch. They'll see them. Whether it's at a truck stop or at a mall or whatever, they just have this, they smell the blood. And they'll be like, what are you doing with your life? Your parents don't understand you. You deserve so much more in life. I can give that to you. They sell this value that's lifting them up. And then once they have their control, then they will lay the smack down and get them dominated and start putting on that invisible leash. It is a horrible thing that happens like that. But we have to do the same kind of things with building them up. And unfortunately, they don't trust it at first because they see when we get a girl out, it's like, oh, they're treating me nice. They're doing good things. Okay, when's the smackdown gonna come? But instead, they get love after. It never comes. And that's the part of the breaking that. And so there are traffickers out there, but there's more predators than anything. All traffickers are predators, but not all predators are traffickers. And so trafficking, as long as your children are aware and you are aware, they don't want people who are going to come looking for them because they're strategic. But predators are absolutely out there. So traffickers aren't putting the zip ties on. They're not flipping your wiper blades up. They're not doing it. Predators could do it. Those kind of things have happened, but it's not going to be trafficking. It'd be predators, which are sometimes even worse because they get more desperate and they don't have the exit strategies. And so just be aware that predators are absolutely looking for the easiest inroad, and they're wolves in sheep's clothing. They don't care what color the sheep's clothing is, whether it's a black sheep, white sheep, a rainbow sheep.
Yeah.
The predators don't care. They're going to look for the easiest inroad. So don't let the values go down for your child. Keep boosting them up and look out for your neighbors, your friends, your family. If somebody recently goes through a divorce, they lose their job. Men are going to be the men that become the customers for human trafficking. If human trafficking wouldn't exist if there wasn't a demand. If there wasn't, the people who are looking for that are broken. Their self-worth is down, and then they have that choice between being a protector and a predator, and it's so much easier to become a predator because they have no value. So watch for your friends, watch for your family, and boost people up. Become your own specialist at building people up in your own way, building their value. People need to know they're a child of the most all-powerful God in heaven. There's nothing in this world that can make them more powerful and more secure than knowing something like that. So that's what you can do, and you can operate in peace. You have to have situational awareness, but situational awareness does not mean you're freaked out all the time. It just means you're simply aware so that you can enjoy your life.
Right. So I'm glad you covered that, because even when we've talked before, I mean, we did cover a little bit last time on like what are some signs, and even, in the world of counter sex trafficking, counter child trafficking, what's needed. We covered that last time, but I'm glad you kind of went through that. So really it's being aware. It's like you said, checking in on people, talking to, and it's interesting that you said that, because my mind went to, make sure your children are loved and feel worthy. Mm-hmm. And the road you took, it was the customer, right? The customer that's broken. So it's really two sides to that coin. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Everybody knows somebody who's engaged in human trafficking. Not that they knew that they were taking advantage of somebody that was being trafficked. But if they go that route, then, and they're looking for it, 90% of all working girls, this is coming from a high-class working girl that was trafficked for over 13 years.
Wow.
Annie Lobear. She told me that 90% of the working girls in Las Vegas whether they're just dancing, whatever, or under some kind of force, fraud, or coercion. Another girl who was an associate of Annie's, who I helped get out of, helped her recover her, got her safe. She told me 98% of all the working girls in Las Vegas, whether dancing or actual prostitution, are under some kind of force, fraud, or coercion. It's human trafficking.
That's wild. Alabama mayor. So I wrote that down. So you'll have to kind of talk a little bit about that. I feel like it's a little bit of a win in this world. So I'll just turn it over to you. You can tell the story.
Shout out to my friend Tony Kennan. He is the Orange Beach, Alabama mayor. He's one of them that inspired me to actually run, and because I saw what he did. You know, that if you have a city council or a mayor that's concerned about human trafficking, you tend to have a lot of inroads and ability to fight human trafficking in that particular area. The law enforcement are empowered, nonprofits are empowered, the people are empowered because the city council and mayor are concerned about it. He is a mayor that is absolutely concerned about it, and he even has given us aside from my organizations, I also am a deeply embedded part of Children's Rescue Initiative. I was one of their main operators and help do international missions with them on the completely different stories and adventures and things that are going on there that I'm a part of. But Tony Kennan, the mayor there, has and the sheriff, they love our work and what we're doing down there. They even gave us an office in the police department.
Wow.
Like these guys are taking it seriously, and they're focusing on their ordinances and ways to do it. But coming outside of that and coming back to who is Aros Mackey and what am I going to do on city council? Tony is a hero of mine because during COVID, he did not let the federal intrusions come into his town. He did not enforce mask mandates, didn't enforce all the things that were there. He didn't have a lot of people die because of those things. They maintained their freedom there. And because of that, they grew. They had so many people who are conservatives that do recognize the difference in freedom and control and things like that. And so his town grew in a good way. And now it's a very powerful, really good city. And I mean, they already have like white sand beaches and amazing things like that. But what an awesome thing. And so, I mean, I have as a person with a master's degree in intelligence and analytical and intel analyst style mind, I have my own ideas of what's coming, and I hope it doesn't. I hope that we don't see a COVID 2.0 or something like that happen again. But there were things that went unanswered. I believe that based on the evidence I've seen out there, that COVID was a bioweapon and we got attacked with it. And it was never truly answered. And there's no reason why it can't happen again because we have no idea how to, we don't even know how we could have stopped it in the first place.
Right.
So why wouldn't it happen again? World Trade Center was attacked in 1993, bombed. And they did figure out who it was and stuff like that, but it happened again. these kind of things could happen again. I'm not trying to use a scare tactic. I just want to make sure that we don't have, those kind of things happen again. And we need to be a community that stands strong and is an example to other communities, and be somebody that pushes back against federal overreach. I'm not against taking measures to protect ourselves. We have to do that, but we have to do it with the right information and do it the right way. I mean, we were given false information, actually.
Right.
And we were told to eat it.
Right.
This is it. You don't have any other options. No, we need a city council and mayor that will take a stand to the values and mindsets and the strength of our own people, because we have some of the smartest people in the world right here. We can be a good advocate of government and teach and guide and lead in the world. And I think that's where St. George needs to go.
Well, and I didn't, when we had Michelle Tanner on here, when she ran, will that be 2 years ago?
It would have been 2 years ago. Yeah.
She really opened my eyes to the power of city council and mayor. So we were kind of going through a lot of COVID then, right? And I'm sitting there like, well, yeah, but what are you going to do about it? And she's like, oh no, we have the power to not mandate this, to not push this, to let freedom be freedom. And I think, like you had said, well, what are you going to accomplish on city council? This is my outlook. If people want to disagree, that's fine. Let's have a conversation. You can comment if you want. I just want the people with the most integrity, people I trust, and people that are smart, intelligent. That's who I want on city council. Like, damn, what are you going to do about the water? Like, we'll figure that out. If we can get the people that have those values and like the 5 values that you've gone through, and that builds the, mayor and city council, we'll figure out the rest. I mean, that's all part of it. We can navigate everything else if we have those values. So, I mean, that's what I wanted to kind of hit home with the whole thing. I almost think it's laughable when people talk about, well, what about, all the building and the roads and the water and like all these things. And I'm like, well, let's just get the most qualified people to be on there, and then we'll figure the rest out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. And just to be mindful and sensitive to, I mean, we all lost people in COVID.
Sure.
And so I don't want to be insensitive to that, because I've lost some friends, close friends and stuff, and family, and it was horrible. But it was an attack, and it hasn't been answered for. And so, we need people who are going to recognize that and want and demand accountability. And I'm one of those guys.
Me too.
If people don't want somebody like that in there, then I don't want to be.
Yeah, I don't want to represent you.
I don't want to represent that. But that's who I am.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. Anything else you want to hit? And I think I've got one more thing I just want to talk about. So if there's anything else you want to bring up, we can.
No, I'm pretty comfortable with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last thing I really want to say, and it's really just hammers you. I've been listening to a lot of different topics. Well, a lot of different people talk about one topic, and it's just the best way I can say it is just personal excellence. And honestly, like, when I look at you, that's what it is. And I think when you were naming off the 5 values of Uncle Tom, Grandpa Tom, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm not saying this just to boost you up or, float your boat. When you were saying those, I thought, dude, that's like, before you even brought up Uncle Tom, I was like, that's you. Like, that's who I believe you are. And when it comes, like I said, when it comes to personal excellence, I view you. And so, one, dude, I've always viewed you as a friend. There are parts of me when I've been around you that you're a mentor. And like I said, when you articulate things very well, you're very educated, you're very smart. But dude, the sacrifice that you've given, the last decade of your life, and Dude, I support you. You know that. I think you know that. I love you. I love everything you've done. And thanks for taking some time out, man, and coming on. I'm honored that you would want to come back on and share a little more of what you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, Grandpa MacArthur is absolutely a hero of mine. And so it means a lot that you would think that would reflect. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, guys.
And likewise, too. Thanks for doing your podcast. Thanks for
no problem
for having me.
No, like I said, there's a handful of people that I've loved having on and wanted to come back on and just kind of check in, and you're always excelling. So there's always something new that I think you could come on and talk about. So you're kind of the perfect guest to bring back on and back on and back on. So I hope you're ready for that.
Well, yeah, no problem. I mean, it's a lot of long-windedness, but it's fun just for me and just to have a conversation with you anyway, whether people listen or not.
Sure.
I don't care.
It's for me.
I just like having the conversation with you.
Okay, guys, that's episode 108. That's Aros Mackey. City council candidate voting is
September 5th is the primary.
Okay.
Yeah. So the mail-out ballots are going to be going out. I don't agree with that, but it's happening.
Yeah.
So whatever. Don't cheat. If you're a cheater out there, knock it off.
Or if you're
don't
dead,
do that.
Don't vote.
Don't vote if you're dead.
So social medias is vote Aros.
Yes.
Anything else you want to throw out about maybe get in contact with you, get in front of you, website, anything like that?
If you disagree with me, feel free to reach out. I'll talk to you and I'm open to hearing from you. The Chamber of Commerce has a forum coming out. This might not be out by then, but I'll be at the things. I'll be at the events. I want to be approachable, and I want to hear from you.
The forums when?
On the 10th of September.
Oh yeah, this will be out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry. The 10th or in August. So in like a few days. It's in a few days.
Oh, okay. Then it's probably not out.
No, yeah, probably not. But so I'll be there talking to people. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's it, guys. That's Aros. Go follow him, like his stuff. He's brave and he's getting out there, putting his real name out there. I mean, that's a big deal to him. I hope you guys understand that. I understand that. That's why I wanted to really dedicate some time to it. So, Aros Mackey, you own episode 108, man. It's all yours.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay, guys, we'll see you next week.